Okay, well, my favorite game of all time actually is a 2D game, and that's Chrono Trigger. I don't know if you feel the same way, but almost everything about that game, the characters, the story, the music, the the mechanics, just almost perfection. Other games, Bomberman, which are just really simple fun. Any Mario game, Full Throttle, Sam and Max with quirkiness. Recently, I've been playing a lot of Plants vs Zombies, and if I could admit one guilty pleasure, it would be surviving high school for iPhone. Okay, so we're all gamers, and games are really a big part of us. We grew up playing games, so it's really hard not to have some of that history leak into our development. So some of the designers on the team, they really enjoy the story element in games, so we try to inject that into our games. Some of the other designers, they really enjoy getting their butts kicked by Mega Man, so levels that they make are a lot more challenging than levels from other designers. The hard part of all this is kind of to keep the influences in check, to keep a tight game package, because if you include too many extraneous bits, it's really easy to try to do too much and fail. For me, it's a combination of art style, gameplay mechanics, responsive controls, and level designs. So I mean, the art style is there to look nice and draw you in, and then the mechanics are there to kind of be fun to play around with, to kind of keep you there. And the controls are there to let you, interact with the game because bad controls, kind of cuts that off. And the interesting level designs kind of give you a cool space to play in, as well as different environments to practice those mechanics in. I think if you are seriously lacking in one of those areas, you can run a really big risk of turning off players from your game. Those are the bare essentials. So I can live without a game, or I can live with a game that doesn't have a huge storyline, for example. Well, so Reflection will be actually our first release as a studio. It's I think one of the things that makes Reflection unique is that it's a student developed game that is going retail. So as far as like a rags to riches story, it's a kind of a big dream come true for us. Now, as far as the game mechanics go, we began with the goal of creating a platforming game with the twist of controlling two characters at the same time, but in two different environments. So that idea really made the game fit on the DSi. Now, compared to other games on the DS and DSi, I think you'll find that Reflection um, utilizes the dual screens really effectively. Like most other DS games, it's just a map or an inventory screen. But it's really core to the Reflection game. It's also got a strong narrative component, and as I was saying earlier, it's got really tight controls, so it feels really good. Okay, well, I recently graduated from the University of Southern California with a degree in business and their interactive media games program. I think people are still kind of questioning the validity of a games education like the kind that the team received, but I think the results here speak for themselves. So, for example, like our classes have been really a huge help to our development work. I mean, learning about programming practices, design philosophies, scheduling strategies, business strategies. These are all integral to our success. Well, because we were students, we really needed to maximize the time for the project because really between between all the BS projects we have and the constant exams we're bombarded with, we didn't have very much time to work. So we had about a dozen people on the team, and we split them up into different sub teams that would kind of work in parallel. So the designers would work on the wireframes of the levels, and the artists would work on the game objects that would go in those levels. And while this is going on, the programmers are working to improve the performance of the game and giving the designers extra features to work with to put in those levels. So that was how we worked. But the problem was classes came first for us. So suddenly the programmers have a big test coming up, and bam, like they're MIA for a week, and we lose that time on production. Well, our art style for Reflection was mainly a consequence of working with the limitations of the DS itself. I mean, the engineers they're really good, but their background was from coming from like working with PCs, working on Xbox 360s. So they were used to having a lot more computing power. So now we get to the DS, and instead of 2 GB of RAM to work with on a PC, we now have 4 MB of RAM. So our art had to become very functional then. So it became something not too ornate, but something that could also be reused over and over again. So like I said, like the restrictions on the DS that actually kind of like leaked into other aspects of the game. Uh, the memory limitations really killed us for level designs. Some like simple stuff like if I wanted a character to talk in the level, like a little cutscene to happen, like that would severely impact the complexity of that level, or the game would freeze. Levels couldn't be as big as we wanted, or have as many objects in them as we wanted. I mean, obviously, other developers have found ways around it, but it was our first time working with the DS, so we were new to it all. So I think working with that for the first time definitely the hardest part. No, I mean, I think it's a lot of problems that stem from that one problem. So some other stuff was when we're trying to get music into the game. It was a huge struggle just to get a simple song to play coming out of the DS speakers. That was a nightmare. Yeah, well, we're working on two unannounced titles for DSiWare. I can't say much about them, unfortunately. I can kind of tease them a little bit. Um, Basically, we're trying to expand our portfolio with the kind of games we can do because we don't want to be known as just puzzle platforming guys. Um, and we also want to push the limits on what is expected from the DSi. So that's all I can say.